Greetings and salutations. I come to you empty-handed, with nothing but my eternal essence. I hope it serves you well. And it will. Just like how God said, "Let there be light." And just like how God said, or how someone said God said, "And it was good, and therefore it was good." Just like how you asked your mom, "Why?" And she said, "Because I said so." It's because she said so. Motherfucker. Look, I know why you're here. And I'm about to lay it all out for you. Look, the only reason you find yourself here, at least the only reason why I imagine you find yourself here, is because you're looking for something. You're looking for something to change the way that you feel. Dude, this is me, alright? Pretend this is 4chan. I'm about to give you a whole green text, red text, be me scenario. Be me. I'll be in my room, numb, fuzzy, just TV static personification of a human being, just TV static. White snow. Exhausted, tired, half there, half not there, half kinda in the future. Deck of cards just sort of shuffling around. What might happen in the future? You know, just like a lazy ass Magic 8 ball. Magic 8 ball. What's my future gonna look like? No. Magic 8 ball. Should I have another piece of Dubai chocolate? Maybe. Alan Watts had once said, "You're looking for something outside of you. And because you're looking for something outside of you to fix you, to change you, that essentially it's not going to work." You know, the way that life happens to be, you know, it doesn't matter what someone says or what someone does or how someone behaves. If you're in a good mood, if you're healthy, if you're clean mentally, you have a sense of clarity, you've got an idea as to how you want to perceive the world, its inhabitants, and all the events within it, in such a way that things are good. It doesn't matter if you come across an irritable person. You're going to find that silver lining, and you're going to enjoy the sort of rascality within them, the little scoundrel that they are. Doesn't matter if you're in ass-to-ass traffic, just, ugh. You're going to be totally okay with that. Because the contents of your mind are pleasant. And so you're not wishing that you were at some other place in space. That the time was different. That, oh man, if only it was lighter outside. Oh man, if it weren't raining. Oh man, if only it was hotter. Oh man, if only it was evening time. Sunset, sunrise. You would just be completely satisfied. Whole body contentment. Mind, body, spirit. And so the most significant takeaway would be that the content doesn't matter. Whatever the input is, it doesn't matter. Your state of mind dictates in an overwhelming kind of way. Anything and everything in your life. And so I suppose that the next most obvious question would have to be, well, okay, if the contents don't matter and that bad events, infuriating people, stupid situations, well, if all of those things become nullified by my mind, if I'm in a pleasant state of being, I'm sort of loving or enjoying the moment or whoever, for however they are, for however it is, you know, how do I get there? You know, what do I got to do to find myself in such waters? You know, how am I to do? that. You know, that's got to be the $1 billion question. You know, and if there's a $1 billion question, there's got to be a $1 billion answer. Well, I've got the goddamn answer for you. Mac Miller once said, go in on your shit. Just keep going in on your shit. You know, never stop going in. And so, what somebody told me one time, they asked me, hey, how are you? How are you feeling? And I said, I feel like $1 million. I feel like $1 million. Being expressionist. You know, thinking, oh yeah, that means I'm feeling good. Right? Well, in that moment, they pulled out the Aikido on me and gaslit me into thinking that $1 million isn't a good way to feel. Here I was just being all high speed, surface level, jet ski on the moat. Just, hey, how are you? I feel like $1 million. I feel good, is what I was trying to say. And they tell me, hey, you know, $1 million isn't good. And you know what was great about that? I walked away from that $1 million right there. It was in that moment I no longer felt like $1 million. Thank you, person. Thank you very much. You know, the answer to that $1 billion question is that life is life, okay? There's a time and a place for everything. And, you know, we're people and we have preferences and we fucking love it when it's golden hour, you know, 7 a.m, whatever, shadows are long. There's a golden sheen of light. It's beautiful. You know, the light will pass through the leaves and the trees, and the silhouettes of the leaves are not green, but they turn orange. You know, oh, the things glow. You know, and there's a preference for this beauty in space and time. You know, and it's not like it's an appropriate question to even say, hey, how can I make it 7 a.m. all the time? You know, how can I experience 7 a.m. more? You know, that's you know, the parallel to that is, you know, how can I experience feeling that sense of love for irritating things and things that I generally don't love all the time? How can I feel that more? How can I feel that? You know, at the flip of a switch, at the snap of a finger. It's like, well, hey, you know what? I'm enlightened. I've got the goddamn answer for you. You can't. What do you mean you can't? Are you sure? You know what? I implore you to try. You see, I have lived enough iterations in time to tell you that it can't be done. Believe me, or don't, okay? I'm not trying to persuade you. This ain't no crystal blue persuasion. Which is the song that I'm going to load up in Spotify very soon. Because here's I'll tell you why. All right, I'll give you my reasoning as to how it can't be done. Why it can't be done. Whatever part of speech as to, how that might go down. I think that at first, we're just kind of unconsciously living and taking in and perceiving the world as we would naturally. And then, by existing, you come across tidbits of data and knowledge in the archives of human collection, such as philosophy or religion or Buddhism, Taoism, spiritual teachings, these sorts of commandments, rubrics and suspenders and belts for your life. These kinds of things that are the bumpers, the lines, the lanes in the highway that keep you where they do as they do for your life, to get you somewhere, to get you where you're going. These sorts of rubrics for a human life, the ideas that make those things up. So first, you're just living naturally. You're just perceiving life and living it as you do. Then you get introduced to some ideas, and now it's we're already rolling. We're already going. We've already added complexity to this hoe. And so now things that you'd make just within a blink of an eye, snap of the finger's judgment, no thought beyond it, just something that's as easy as opening a fridge or closing your eyes, now is something that you dedicate more calories in your brain to perform that function. And one of two things will happen to you in that moment. For me, I wish upon the first one. The first one being, you hear whatever sorts of ways of life and philosophies and ideas, blah, 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 about the world and how to live a life, how to get some kind of control over your life, and here are aspects of the spiritual realm and the mind that you didn't know. Da-da-da. I wish I wasn't so allured by that kind of magistry. They perform some goddamn magic on you. They're not even on you. They're just performing magic in front of you, and you're witnessing it. Cards appearing and disappearing out of their hands. Fucking, whoa! Shit is just appearing and disappearing before your very eyes, and you don't know how that works yet. For me, I wish I were able to understand the sort of concept and really get it, that there is nothing to do, there is nowhere to go, there's nothing to obtain. It's like, think of it. Let's say you're the highest level human, S+ ranked human on Earth right now. What does your progression of that look like? What is getting to that level look like? And what is that level of obtainment mean personally to you? Like, can you quantify that and put that into words? Oh, well, I used to get angry at people and my life situation, and now I don't. And I suppose I've obtained S+ rank human whatever mental model T1000, because I no longer experience these unpreferable, undesirable states of being in the world. And it's like, how did you get there? Oh, great. How did you get there? Well, what's the journey of that? What's the progression of that? It's like time and experience. Yep. Like, literally, that's it. That's the fucking answer for everything and all things. It's a chemical process. Okay? You want to marinate the food to get that flavor in there? You marinate it for 2 minutes. Hey, all right? That's what you get. You do it for 24 hours. Yeah, that's what you get. All right? Experience, time. This is how you get to some kind of understanding. There's no wormhole that you could just hop into and cut across. The journey gets you there. Like, I promise you, you live with depression long enough, you live with anything that bothers you for long enough, you just start to get freaky with that shit. Okay? It's like that with absolutely everything in life. It's no different from if you only had a butternut squash to eat, or a potato. If you only had potatoes to eat, I'm sure you would go through the goddamn gambit of potato recipes. How many baked potatoes can you have? You say, oh, baked potatoes are my favorite. Wonderful. Have them for 365 days, 5 times a day. You're gonna want to get freaky with it. Oh, what about if I have cubed potatoes, steamed potatoes, French fries? If a child is kicking your seat behind you as you sit on an airplane hovering 30,000 feet in the air, flying somewhere, at first you might be bothered, annoyed, irritating, cursing existence, berating this child, sending curses, thwarting the parents, the parental figures and guardians of said child. Like, how could you raise such an evil, vile creature? And then, how long does that last? An hour? 2 hours, right? Maybe even shit talk about them for weeks later. But at some point in time, the narrative changes. Because you get bored of that emotion, of that particular expression of life. And it's no longer, this is annoying, I'm bothered by this. You reach the fundamental emptiness of the universe in that moment. It's no longer an event that objectively, for everyone, for 100% of people, 100% of the time, is a nuisance, is a bother. Now you've now you've cleared the etch. It wasn't even you. Time itself shook the Etch-a-Sketch. Fundamental emptiness of the universe. It's no longer marinated in a bothersome fashion just cause for the shits and gigs. Now you start thinking to yourself, ooh, damn, this kid could be a fucking drummer. He's got some goddamn rhythm. He's actually got some rhythm to the way that he's kicking this shit. You start riding with it a little bit, maybe. And so I simply just throw this floaty into your pool as a reminder, because I myself was reminded of this. None of these things have the strength to change your internal state. You're not going to be happy if you get egg whites instead of tofu, if you get an apple instead of a barlette pear. That's not going to make you happy. You're not going to be happy if you get to listen to music over a podcast. I'm going out on a limb here to say that I don't even think that you'd be happy if you got to do the thing that you preferred to do over the thing that you didn't prefer to do. I think that in life, things get a little bit tricky. I think that oftentimes perfection is subtle. You know, the nature of happiness is so quiet. I have a conspiracy theory that anytime the mind will get involved in the recipe of whatever happiness and satisfaction and contentment is, that dude the mind just fucks it up, bro. You know, the mind's just like a confident fucking spaz. Dude, we'll be happy if we blank, blank, blank. There's always some kind of prerequisite to experience happiness, contentment, satisfaction, joy. It's never in real time palpable whenever it comes to the mind's sort of plan to grasp, to get. Dude, I just noticed this. Just one time notice this. If you're ever happy, if you're ever satisfied with what you're experiencing in life, you know, where the hell is your mind in that? You know, what component is your mind? What player is your mind in any of that? You know, as I imagine the mind to be in this moment in time, I imagine my mind as the sort of coach who has the strategy clipboard, who says, we're going to do this, then we're going to do that, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do that. And then we're going to obtain these sorts of results. And when we have these results, we will feel like this. Well, you know what I've learned, bro? I'm the mofo that has gotten to live with the results of all of the tasks that the fucking mind sent me on quests to complete. And so I have those rewards and the experience gained from all those tasks. Everything that glitters is not gold. Oh, yeah. First, I don't even know. I think I first started working out because I wanted a sexier body, a better physique. And then somewhere along the line, I recognized I didn't solely want it for other people, people that I was attracted to find me attractive. Next it became, do I find myself attractive? That became more important than if other people do. Am I okay with what I see when I look in the mirror? Then it became completely in the opposite direction of just physicality and more about mental, emotional wealth, health, and well-being. Am I doing the healthy thing? Am I eating the healthy thing? Do I feel balanced in these regards? Then it became about longevity, Will I be able to do these sorts of very average and mundane things when I'm a senior, when I'm old as hell? I've seen old people lose their functions, and that has freaked me out to the point where I prioritize just all the little things. Can I sit up? Can I get up? Can I sit down? Can I pick up? Can I move? Can I grab? Can I hold? Can I lift? Can I push? Can I pull? Very simple, mundane things. Blah, 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 blah. And, living with these results, I have gotten to really experience it's like the whole gambit of the human condition. At first you start thinking, yes, I want to become attractive. I want other people to find me attractive. And then you get out there in the world and you start picking up on some signals that someone finds you attractive. And it's only in that moment that you recognize that you're like, yep, this is not what I wanted. This is not how I imagined it in my movie. It's not that sort of sweet, sick, sort of feeling that you imagined it to be before you had it. It's like many things in life, the desiring of the thing is better than having the thing. Like, they talk about this all across the board. The disappointment of enlightenment is that the enlightenment is that you realize in that moment of hitting that pinnacle, of hitting that peak, of obtaining the goal or the mission or the objective, in having that thing, in completing it, you recognize that you didn't even want it. It wasn't what you wanted. I mean, you wanted it when you didn't have it, because what you imagined it to be was better than what it was. Which is why, this is why I argue, having that sort of passion and desire, having a goal to obtain, and having the fuel and sort of ambition to, make that journey happen is better than whatever sort of plastic medal or participation ribbon you get from whatever the thing is. And every time it's like a game of peekaboo. It's always, now you can't see it, now, whoop-a, whoop-a. And you think, you're Charlie Brown. You think that hoe is gonna let you kick the fucking football. Doesn't matter how many times the universe, life itself, will tell you, hey, look, what you want is not at the end of that finish line. You're gonna be like, shut up, I wanna find out for myself. Don't tell me that. And life doesn't care. It's like, alright, fine, fucking go, I don't care. Go. Find out for yourself. So earlier I sort of touched on a little topic of, what about when, at first, in the beginning, you were unconscious about things, and then in the middle you became more aware of various pieces of knowledge in the universe and how that added complexity to the thing. And in that complexity, you might start thinking, hey, how can I influence this? How can I control this and manipulate this to, I don't know, feel even better than whatever it was before? Well, I'll tell you right now, it's impossible. Hello. Goodbye. my take on life is that in life, you're merely a child. And you sit at the table. And you want McDonald's. You want Wednesdays. You want to go to Golden Corral. But your parents chose to make chicken adobo and Kraft macaroni and cheese. And that you have to deal with not being able to get what you want. Not being able to have what you want on a regular basis. And that in life, your whole situation is just figuring out different recipes as to what to do with the sheer ratio of times that you're not going to be going to KFC, not going to be eating at Golden Corral, not going to be having McDonald's, not having Wendy's. Maybe once every 3 months, maybe, you'll get that. Once every 3 goddamn months, you'll get the thing that you wanted. All the other times is just you being able to deal, cope, handle, assuage the situation. Of playing the hand that you're dealt. Hey, bro. I just came across a girl. Not just, but recently. "10 minutes ago, saw a girl walking my way, me walking her way. I saw by the way that this girl was walking that she was very much present in that moment. Very much, she had a very runway-like walk. Kind of artificial, in a way. Very self-conscious. It was putting me off. And this is the kind of situation where I just think about if there was a genie out there that I could rub his lamp and I could make a wish and just somehow conjure the universe in my favor, right? To make me look like the hero that we all wish we were in our dreams. To make me the James Bond, to make me the goddamn fucking dude, that dude, And I'm doing a little thought experiment here. If that was the case, I had that at my disposal, and I could just snap my fingers, and the universe would be as I wished it to be, or better than I could even. What about that situation would change? What about that altercation would have been different? Well, here's what I gotta say. Okay, it might not have felt great, right? I'll acknowledge that. It didn't feel great. I didn't feel like the hero. I don't think she felt like the female equivalent. But you know what? I think that things not working out is also things working out in some other realm. Okay? I really do feel as though that not every glove fits every hand. And that if you put on that misfit thing for you and you start wearing it, you I think you get the point, I think that when things don't fit and things don't work out, I think that they didn't work out for a whole load of subtle reasons that are hard to put into words, but you just sort of pick up on that. I also feel as though, less is more. That's pretty broad, so what else do I have to say about that? I think that a detox is in order. A little detox is in order. I have an inkling that I can get so caught up in just doing shit, right? I can get so caught up in doing shit every waking moment of the day, forever. That any point in time that there is a dull moment, a lull in time, that it's been steeped in all of the other flavors that my life is developed around, that I don't get to just experience the essence of nothing as it is anymore. It's always tainted with something. And, I'm grateful for when it's tainted with the essence of something that I like or that I find appealing in some way, When I go for a walk and before the walk, I was looking forward to the walk and there was a sort of magnetation, a gravitational pull to do the walk, I feel, yes. That's riding around in me, and I like that, or whatever. But God forbid there's nothing going on. Dude, nothing? Are you kidding me? Nothing happening. I can't stand that. if I came across a genie somehow, I'd say, don't change a thing. Don't change a thing. That's not because I don't care. It's just that I don't think things could be better. You know, not wanting something is the same as having it. You know, if I got to live in a universe where there was slushies at every street corner, purple slurm slushies at every street corner, you know, I think that in any of the ways that you can wish the universe to be different than it already is, that you, at some point in time, will get used to that way of things, that kind of reality. And who's to say that we're not already living in that kind of reality that is absurd and and that there are unfathomable things happening all around us in this very moment, that in some alternate timeline there was somebody who was wishing upon a star for that one to be occurring. And in your universe, no one bats an eyelash. So on that note, I'm going to relax into I'm gonna sink into the beanbag chair of this universe and